We're moving. And if you're thinking about doing the same, you're probably weighing different neighborhood options. Capitol Hill has good walkability, but the homes are kind of small. Shoreline is up north and in the suburbs, but you can get a yard. Let's go talk through all the options. So I've made a few neighborhood deep dives in the past where I go into a little bit more detail of housing options and food options in specific neighborhoods. But this is a little bit more of a comprehensive overview of the greater Seattle area and all of the different neighborhoods. Well, not all of them. I think there's like 135 different micro neighborhoods in the city of Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, we're not a huge geographic area, but it's a big city. If you were moving here and you hadn't spent that much time here, I don't know how you'd choose. Watch the channel, that's how you'd choose where to live.
Right now, this is how they would choose.
This is it, this is how you're gonna choose.
I've been working on putting together this map for neighborhood tours, and it's still in production, but I thought it might help illustrate some of these neighborhoods that we're talking about. My day job as a realtor forces me to drive around a lot, and we're thinking about moving. But I've gone through all of these neighborhoods many times, and I love it all, so it's really hard to choose. So let's just start at the south end, at the bottom, and work our way north. Let's start in Renton right here. This is at the bottom of Lake Washington.
And so just to clarify, Renton is a different city. It's its own city.
Yeah, it's not part of Seattle. It's a completely separate city. A lot of people do live in Renton and commute to downtown Seattle. You can drive. If you drive a little bit, you can get to a transit center and jump on the light rail. And there's a lot of single family homes there. It's very neighborhoody, pretty family friendly.
Yeah, I think my impression of Renton is that there's a wide range of property values. There's some very high end on Lake Washington, and then it goes down to lower property values. So I think there's a broad range in Renton.
Yeah, my favorite spot in Renton is called The Landing in Renton.
Yeah. You're schwanky.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. There's some nice restaurants, some nice shopping. It's a little higher end, but it's very pleasant along the water, and it's just a nice place to kind of spend your day.
My favorite place in Renton is IKEA. But hey, if you're moving to Seattle or any new town, it's really important to know where the nearest IKEA is. And the only Seattle IKEA, actually the only IKEA in Washington, I think, is in Renton.
Also part of the south end, South Seattle, is Rainier Beach and Beacon Hill, Columbia City area. A very multicultural area. It's pretty fun to kind of go there. There's a lot of food options from around the world.
Restaurants, yum.
Yeah, there's a lot to eat there. I'd say in terms of home values, it's probably on the lower end of the city. There's a lot of older, really small homes. They're starting to get replaced with a lot of townhouse developments and some new construction. If you're looking for something small with a really diverse neighborhood, it's a good spot to be in.
I think Columbia City has kind of popped out recently as a really cool, fun place to be with cute little downtown strip and restaurants, and very desirable.
Yeah, Beacon Hill's kind of the same. Centrally located, there's light rail goes across the city. It's really easy.
There's a light rail station, we should mention, in Columbia City and in Beacon Hill, right? I think Beacon Hill is kind of coming up a little bit after Columbia City as far as like people thinking it's a really cool place to live. We used to live in Beacon Hill, but when we were there, that wasn't long ago. How long? 6 years ago. It really was nothing like it is now. We were just there last week. There's a lot of new restaurants, just way more stuff to do than there was when we lived there.
Moving on to West Seattle. If you're unfamiliar with West Seattle, it's kind of hard to access, especially right now because the West Seattle Bridge is out of commission. It's under construction, I think until about 2022, but it's kind of up in the air.
It's hard to access, but that's kind of the appeal of West Seattle.
Yeah,
it's out of the way.
It's a quiet, beachy community. Alki is just a fun little neighborhood in West Seattle.
Yeah, you do when you're along Alki Beach in West Seattle, you do kind of feel like you're in California, Southern California. There's palm trees, which I'm sure they imported, but it's nice. It kind of feels like a vacation for those of us who don't live there regularly.
And because of that inaccessibility, the prices are a little bit lower. You can find single-family homes and townhouses at a more affordable price than the rest of the Seattle area.
You've helped a lot of, especially first-time buyers recently, move to West Seattle. Yeah. Why is it that they ended up there? Was it just the price point being a little bit lower?
Price point being a little bit lower. It's not quite as competitive as the rest of the city. With everybody moving towards working remotely, the inaccessibility is becoming less of a burden.
Yeah, it seems like it's been a top choice for a lot of buyers recently. I mean, it's still Seattle. It's still going to be Seattle prices, but it's just a little bit less expensive, probably just because of that inaccessibility. But man, if you work in West Seattle and you could live there,
it's a good life.
It's a pretty good life. What are the transportation options if you did work downtown? There's not a light rail from West Seattle.
There's not a light rail, but there's a water taxi.
Water taxi.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's like you should be in a romantic comedy if you're commuting by water taxi.
Yeah. It only runs during working hours, so it goes from West Seattle to downtown in the morning, and then downtown to West Seattle in the evening.
And there's regular bus lines too, right?
And then there's regular bus lines, but they're really hard right now because you have to divert around the West Seattle Bridge. So moving on to central Seattle, and this is like Capitol Hill, Queen Anne, Magnolia, East Lake, kind of all around Lake Union area. There is a neighborhood in Seattle called Central, but just kind of the larger area. This is, I say this is probably the most attractive area in Seattle. When people move to town, it's where all of the touristy things are. It's where most of everything happens in Seattle. It's where the hubbub is.
And therefore, it's a little pricey.
Yeah, it is. It's competitive, it's expensive. Homes are generally smaller for that kind of entry-level price point.
But there's also a lot of condo options.
This is where most of the condos are.
Most of the condos you'll find in Capitol Hill, East Lake, South Lake Union by Amazon. So that if you're in the market for a condo, these are probably the neighborhoods that you'll be looking at. Yeah.
Let's move over to the east side for a minute. This is like Kirkland, Redmond, Bellevue, Issaquah. A different feel over there, different culture.
Redmond's where Microsoft is.
So you have Microsoft, you have, there's some Amazon offices over there.
Oh yeah, actually Amazon is really expanding in Bellevue. So tech is, quite a bit of tech is moving outside of Seattle, and they're moving over to the east side to Bellevue.
I talked to a lot of people moving to town for like Microsoft jobs, and they end up settling in Seattle instead of the east side and then commuting because there's still like the city feel is in Seattle, and it's definitely more of a suburban feel on the east side.
It's kind of funny going over there because I feel like this is strange. This is like another city that's just right here. But you're right. It's not the like big downtown Seattle feeling. But when I think of Bellevue, other than Microsoft, I do think of good shopping.
Yeah, that's true.
Very good shopping. It's super fun to go at Christmas.
They deck it out.
They do Christmas well over in Bellevue. But outside of the downtown Bellevue area, right, it's definitely more suburban. It's a higher price point. I definitely think of families, very good school districts over there.
Yeah.
You kind of go beyond these east side suburbs and you're in great hiking territory.
Yeah, it's great access to nature and adventures.
Yeah.
'Cause you're already almost into the mountains.
Yeah.
Over there.
Yeah, you go east and you get the hiking adventures, and you go west and you have city life in Seattle. So I see why people want to live there, especially if you work at one of those companies.
I'm convincing myself.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
That does sound pretty good. So so is this east side? What about Mercer Island? That's kind of its own thing. Explain Mercer Island.
I think it is its own thing.
It's its own city. It's not Seattle.
It is its own city.
Yeah.
So you can only get there by bridge. It's in between Seattle and Bellevue, and I'd say the price point is much higher than either. It's a pretty insulated community. It's very quiet there. There's not a whole lot to do. It's just like really woodsy and homey.
Yeah, again, family friendly, beautiful, lots of lakefront access and lake views.
Can I say bougie? Okay, North Seattle. So this is like Laurelhurst, Fremont, Ballard, Green Lake, Greenwood, Northgate, Wedgwood. There's a lot of like little micro communities in North Seattle. It's a pretty big area. So I-5 kind of cuts North Seattle in half. You have the west side, which is a little bit more urban feeling.
There's what, Ballard?
Ballard and Fremont and Green Lake. There's a lot to do over there. Then you have the east side, more neighborhoody, which is like Wedgwood and Laurelhurst and U District.
It'll be interesting over the next couple of years because previously the light rail had only gone up to downtown Seattle. And so this year, for the first time, a new station just north is opening in Northgate. And so that'll be kind of a game changer for some of those neighborhoods, and it's going further north into the suburbs after that. So those south end neighborhoods that we mentioned first had the benefit of the light rail in a way that the north end hasn't. I say we because that's some of the neighborhoods that we've lived in, but we have the hockey team also coming. Their practice facilities are going to be up in the Northgate neighborhood, so that could be kind of changing the face of Northgate.
Sure.
It's hard to generalize because the neighborhoods up in the north end are all really different. It has the kind of San Francisco feel where it's just a different vibe from neighborhood to neighborhood, which makes it really fun. Ballard, for example, that's on the far west. You're near water, but like I think of Ballard as what, millennials who are just
people in their 30s.
People in their 30s with
who
maybe
are about to or have little kids.
Yeah, like one or two little kids. You'll see a lot of those folks around. I think of Wallingford as a little bit older, maybe like middle-aged people and their, teenage kids. This is a generalization, but and then as you go even further east, Laurelhurst.
Yeah, you get to Laurelhurst and Windermere, a little bit older still. Like lawyers and doctors. A lot of lawyers and doctors live there. Maybe empty nesters.
Yeah, you're starting to get into empty nesters. I had never really thought of that it kind of works east like that.
Yeah.
But again, that's a generalization, but that's just kind of the vibe.
Lastly, the north end suburbs. So this is like Edmonds, Shoreline, Linwood, Lake Forest Park, Mount Lake Terrace.
Well, this is another area that we have personally lived, so we're a little bit more familiar with the north end suburbs on a personal level. Also hard to generalize because some pockets are super expensive housing-wise, but there's definitely more affordability as you move north. Edmonds is a favorite suburb. It's right on the water. There's a ferry terminal over to Kingston, and it just kind of has its own little downtown vibe going. Definitely older, but very scenic and
yeah, it's very pretty.
And quite a few good restaurants. Shoreline is just north of Seattle, the first suburb north. When I think of Shoreline, I do think more families or people looking to settle into single-family homes.
Yeah.
There's definitely fewer townhouses, not too many condos. It's known for having a pretty good school district, public school district.
Yeah, Shoreline's nice because it feels like Seattle still. It's just like a continuation of the North Seattle neighborhoods. But the school districts are really good. The homes are a little bit more affordable. Still pretty competitive and pricey, but not as bad as some of the North Seattle neighborhoods.
I'd say it does feel like Seattle and that it kind of blends as you're driving, although I think we have to be honest in our assessment and say there's definitely not the same dining quality or options.
That's true.
Really in Shoreline or anywhere north, we've been kind of, struggling when we lived up in the north end, kind of like we're not that far from Seattle, but the food choices really are just not as good.
If you're thinking about moving to town, I know it can be fairly overwhelming, but I'm a little biased. I don't think that you can go wrong in any of the general Seattle neighborhoods. So if you're thinking about making a home in Seattle, send me a message. Until next time.